Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I truly, truly appreciate it. I got no other than Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Chuck D. Chuck, thank you. Thank you for coming on my platform.
I appreciate the opportunity, man. And I'm on the other side, usually watching you and you dropping jewels and gems, not just for young people, but for older heads to understand that, hey, listen, they need to be retracked and rerouted because when it comes down to young folk, we can't say it's their fault, but a lot of when you're old head, you kind of know when it's your fault. You know what I'm saying? You really got much excuses. So I really enjoy watching how you kind of like retrack a lot of heads while by watching you. So
Yeah,
thanks for the opportunity.
thank you, man. Like I can remember first, coming upon or coming across, when y'all guys was into it, man, like Public Enemy. And
Mhm.
right now, Public Enemy number one. I can remember like being on Brooklyn House. And right now, it's like I'm locked up facing a murder charge. And my buddy on Walter King Tut Johnson, came across the radio. And everybody, see, yo, Glaze, you hear that? You hear that? Tut just, recommend Public Enemy number one for you or whatever. And what I'm
Mhm.
saying is, like, when y'all listen to y'all, it's like I'm talking about, like, right now, fight the power. And right now, I got a letter from the president the other day, man. Those were some very powerful words, even way back when. And to me, like I told you, that's when, like I say, hip hop had a conscience. Hip
Mhm.
hop was like, to me, like you just had that gravitating voice that when you talk, it was like E.F. Hutton. Everybody to stop and listen because it's a powerful message, even way back when. So to me,
Well,
that
I like to say that me and my brother, I mean, I think our voices come from our pops. So we were one of the fortunate, but back, we're older from, you know, the early 60s. I'm born in 1960, my brother 1963. There was a time, man, was everybody kind of like shared fathers and, this stuff in the community. And you talk about the uprising of a certain mindset in the 60s. We come from that in Queens and then later on moving to Roosevelt, Long Island. So the 60s and 70s had a rise in our consciousness anyway. It was no big deal for what we considered like common sense in the 60s and the 70s, no matter wherever somebody came from. Like we always say that in the 60s and the 70s, we might have all been broke, but we wasn't broken. And if you take the statistics, man, 100,000 black men, they say, was in jail in 1970. How the hell did that grow to seven figures during the 80s? So we hated when we saw Cointelpro come into the 80s, come into New York in the late 70s, guns, weed, not weed, guns, drugs.
mhm,
They took the weed off the streets. And what was manifesting in Brooklyn, Manhattan, especially the Bronx, Queens, at that time, well, I mean, people could go see Original Gangster and see how that all manifested in the movement of that was intertwined with the government.
mhm.
And so what happened in the 80s, we saw swell up in New York in the late 70s, and the 80s swept on in. As older heads, we saw this coming. Where we come from a square mile in Roosevelt, Long Island, man, and you couldn't find a hard drug or a gun in Roosevelt in 1973 or 74. By 1978, it was like everywhere. Like where did they come from? I remember this cat got shot in Roosevelt in 1974, and everybody was asking the question, Gibbs, like, where did they get this gun from? Because a gun back in Queens and Long Island and all that, a gun was like, oh yeah, your pops was or uncle was in the Korean War, and they had a Luger in the closet, or the sawed-off shotgun. So it was like it wasn't the little toolies, and wasn't like you couldn't get one easy. And all of a sudden, in a 3 to 4 year period, all of a sudden it was everywhere. And also they took weed off the streets, and then all of a sudden started introducing cocaine, and then going into other areas. Dust and all that was like lingering around. But I never did any. I was trying to be a half-ass athlete, so I thought that doing anything would be bad for me. But but we all intertwined, man. We come from a square mile town, and everybody know each other, and you got the ups and the downs, but everybody related to each other. So if I'm doing this over here, my brother's on the other side of the room, he could be in that over there. We in the same family. So we were affected by Cointelpro, the mass jailings of many of us that got into those games that were being played on the young. A lot of older heads, they knew they could probably think their way out of it, but then what you had was economic depression anyway. How do I come up out of it and get this money? And then all of a sudden they start seeing young heads getting money like this. And we hated the 80s coming in. There was nothing fly about. I mean, music and culture, we were part of the DJ unit, trying to have a good time in a circle of a lot of encroaching things upon our community, ourselves, young black males, young black females. Just being black, no matter what, is already it's a thing. But we would come out of it with a good spirit, good feeling, and we also was involved with music. And at that time, late 70s, you started seeing turntable number one to turntable number two, somebody getting on the mic. So it was having a good time in a sea of every bit. The president gave up on New York City in 1974. You had an impeachment damn near. A new president coming. United States of America was unsure. But what we had music coming in, hip hop was forming, disco was good before it became computerized bad disco. And it was good, right? And if you could learn how to do the freak by 78, you was really good.
Hey, oh man. Hey, listen, man. You just said a mouthful, man. And even right now, some of the things I'm gonna touch on, as far as when you talk about how you went from Queens to Roosevelt, and even with that Long Island, no guns, like no guns.
Okay.
Now you sit
and
back.
Nassau County cops, police and the administration out there, they were mob. They were mob. They were known for being mob. They knew as soon as you cross Nassau County, you got like police, but they mafia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like nobody know nothing for nothing, but they if anything is going to know anything about gun fear, it's going to be that, right?
But even now, like, look, back then, no guns. Like you say, unless they went to the wars and they had a little side piece or whatever. Now all of a sudden it's guns everywhere. These kids carry guns in their backpack and a school bag, and you got all these mass shooting. And I'm just sitting back thinking about, whoa, how in the heck all that stuff got out of hand? And then not only that, you hit back on as far as we talk about how was hip hop formed, how was music formed with the technique and the one turntable, then a two turntable, then a mixer, then a mic, then a battle. And then right now is I just listen and I just did something Saturday from a panel in regards to where hip hop started and how it started, because there's a big debate between Busta Rhymes and Fat Joe, whereas they saying who started what, who did what, and even right now, to me,
they were shorties. They were shorties in the 80s and really, really like damn near kindergartners in the 70s. But Brian, just think back, man, and I know you was a shorty. That when you heard hip hop, it made you feel like euphoric. I mean, if you had nothing else in the world, like I said, we might all been broke, but we wasn't broken. And the thing about it, we were all connected, man. And being connected, knowing this, we'd have things like Centennial, Roosevelt Park, then we go into Queens. Everybody knew who the thug was. It wasn't like, like me, I was part of the scoundrel that, like maybe I could play half-ass ball. I'm not a ball player, I mean, but I like the music and stuff like that. So, but I'm not a thug. But I know, he a stick-up kid, but that's him. He's not fucking with me. I ain't fucking with him. We good. We probably be at this, you know what I'm saying? We didn't bleed into each other. Everybody had their category, man. And everybody had their area. It was like, I'm not fucking with them. They not fucking with me, but we live in the same town. What the fuck? We know each other since whatever. But once they started pouring money, animosity, then the drug game got crazy, where you would see somebody respected because of their status and their age. That goes away because once you see that cat turn into a fiend, then the young shorty's coming up in the next year. Remember, every generation is 5 years.
Yeah.
And then Black life, it's 5 years. Everything else might be 7 or 8 years, but every generation is 5 years. And so the 5-year period, somebody might go away and come back. You got a shorty generation in there that's detached. And the 80s was about detachment, Gibbs. And once you separate the detachment, you take the story away, you take the trial, the errors, the tribulations away from a shorty, and then also you throw money in there, and at the same time you throw a little protection. Once upon a time, a little dude wasn't going to go to a big dude and talk crap, but the equalizer came along, and it changed the game because it made those that had some sense silent, and it made those that might have just felt a little superiority get loud. And here we experiencing 40 years later where they're give the rewards to the loudest in the room. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean that there's a sense going on, but it's just a loud volume in the room. So we remember that time, but we got to understand what was bestowed upon us. And the older heads if you go back to the older heads that actually went away, came back from Vietnam, and they had a hard struggle. They were probably the last generation that dropped jewels that nobody looked at as having nothing. Oh, there you old head, you ain't got nothing. It wasn't about that. It was like they had so much up here. You know, they could pull your girl riding backwards on a Stingray. You know what I'm saying? They were right. You know what I'm saying? Well, they just had it. And back then in the and this is what hip hop was able to bite off of. Hip hop was able to bite off of, like, you know, like, yo, man, I'm gonna take the jewels that old head have and like put this in the rhyme and get this party popping. There's some cats used to get on the mic and kind of they had game. You know what I'm saying? The DJs had game. And they would try to also find ways to keep the animosity down, because if they got so much game, cats get jealous, so that they would have a smooth way to making the dudes feel good. Yeah. So that was everybody being attached. The 80s, I don't know, some like Cointelpro, the counterintelligence program, you know, the forward program of J. Edgar Hoover breaking up Black communities by any means necessary, and making us look at ourselves as the enemy instead of the real enemy that was dropping all this on us. That extended into the 80s in a very bad way. You had the 666 president, Ronald Wilson Reagan, that came in, and he was really the one that said, I'm going to make America great again. Wow. At Black and brown people's expenses. But you know what? Hip hop countered that, though. Mm-hmm. No matter what you throw, hip hop found a way to do like Muhammad Ali and do the Ali shuffle on it and come out like Superman and
the greatest.
Right, exactly. So, but understand this: when something comes out so great, to be the antidote to the problem, understand the enemy starts to have a blueprint for two more destruction plans, maybe 3 more down the line. So we were just able to say, man, hip hop is that vehicle. We love to do it. We like to do the music. If we had an opportunity to do records, we'll do these different type of records, like we would do radio shows and drop jewels as well as having fun. The bottom line when you're doing music and culture is that you want to be able to have people have fun and say, man, I enjoyed that. I could come back and do that again. It ain't a one-time thing. It's like, damn, I wish I could do that again. Damn, I wish every day would be like that Friday night we went to that gig, you know?
Friday, Saturday,
Sunday, yeah.
Block. I'm talking about block party. Yeah. So and I'm talking about even right now, you 14 years old, you know, not supposed to be anywhere. Sneak into this place. It was this place called the Zoo. It was on Atlantic Avenue, Atlantic and Nordstrom. And right now is like you got the good music, but you go in there and person can get their head chopped off or whatever because they was about it. But still back then, you know, even with that hip hop stuff, it was so clean. It was it was made to have fun. People go out laughing, you know, trying to get the girls. But when you know, I'm asking you from a standpoint, when did hip hop stop being fun and start turning to gangsterism, killing, robbing, stealing?
Well, to tell the story about Brooklyn has already been a planet for a very long time, its own planet. I mean, when they talk about hip hop in the Bronx, stuff jumping off in the Bronx, they tell a part of a story with somebody from the Bronx or went there from Manhattan to understand that you talk about the migration of people into New York City, they're going to be spread amongst the 4 and then later on 5 boroughs and in the tri-state area based on like what they could afford, what situations are set up for somebody to go and still go to work and come back and pay for the spot where they lay. That's the black person's migration into New York, and also Latino, Puerto Ricans. They come from Puerto Rico in the 50s. All right, we got this area or these buildings that we just built with a project type of situation, or white flight that own the buildings that move out but still own the buildings for they can take an apartment and slice it to 4 parts, and you got 4 families paying rent, and then they come in with Section 8 programs and stuff like that. The migration of everything dictated how boroughs were operated in the 50s. You had like immigration coming from Caribbean, also black folk been there for a while, coming up from Harlem. Harlem is a center point. So the point I'm getting is that Brooklyn always had its own world anyway, but they had degrees of separation. You could older cats wasn't trying to mix with younger cats. You always had small pubs and parlors and bars in Brooklyn anyway with music. They're not letting young heads in. Young heads had to wait to the parks and the DJs
outside
come out with the systems, and that's rightfully so. It's like in a club in a bar with a jukebox, man. They like 40 or 30 years old, man. They don't want no kids up in there. They selling alcohol, right? Yeah. Where the kids gonna go? Oh, the kids go. Oh, there was no such thing as sound systems until the 70s, and the DJs out of Jamaica set up the sound, set it up in the park. Big speakers, they take a band equipment, and boom, they hear the records really big, and the kids could come on in the park and have a good time. That's the tri-state area New York City story on hip hop, and it was about get away from your everyday thing and come in and it's peace, love, unity, and have some fun, because we know where the drama is at. The drama is when you leave and the party's over. Then anything can happen, right? Because people are what? They live in tight. They live in like cheek to jowl. I mean, it wasn't just black people. When you talk about New York City, there's no other city in the northern hemisphere that's built like New York, where you can go like 28 miles with a token payment. You know what I'm saying? So cats could get from there to there. It was already set up. It ain't got nothing to do with black life. Black life lived on top of that life that was designed. So it was about peace, unity, love, and having fun. Why? Because it's tight. We tight. We packed on each other. So we got to have some breathing room and let it be the music. So we're starting to get into the thing of the story of the gangsterism and all that. When hip hop became a recorded music, more and more stories wanted to be told. Nobody in the city wanted to talk about like what was happening. It's like, yo, man, I'm trying to get away from that. But on the outskirts, Long Island, Jersey, Connecticut, Philly, Albany, cats is like, okay, we this is what we got going on, because once you start talking about lifestyles of the city is going to look at everything else as being corny. If you fake, at least that was the rule.
Yeah. And
so if somebody on the outskirts going to actually show some legitimacy, they're going to show that they kind of legit. Yeah, this is what goes on down here. Don't come out to da da da. I mean, Newark is a place that was on its own. Nobody wanted to go to Newark, or like nobody wanted to go to Rockaway either, with an attitude like I'm here from Brooklyn, because like Rockaway is its own planet. But everybody wanted to tell their legitimate story to not make them seem like, oh yeah, you could come here and take advantage of it because we soft. No, So that started to happen even in the music as it started coming up out of LA and Texas and Miami and all these other places. Like, I don't want New York to seem like it's the predominant. Yeah. You go there and we're gonna take over everywhere we go. So we're gonna let you know what's going on here. But you know what? Rappers are like actors, man. Back then. They were actors. It's like you ain't really served no time ago. It was like, well, you telling the story from your mans and them who served, and then you telling the third story. But my brother Ice-T said it most honestly. He said, yo, I was in this lifestyle. So when I started to rhyme as an OG, as original gangster, I'm an original gangster. And at the end of my stories, I'm trying to tell cats, this ain't the way to go. This is the way out. Ice-T out in Los Angeles used to say, "Yo, man, I was running with a pack of cats, and I mean, we was pulling robberies, and I'm trying to like get in further entwined into that, and they looking at me as I was doing some music, and they'd say, "Yo, man, you're not rolling with us no more. You do that. Don't do it. We all doing this, trying to figure out what we doing. You doing that, doing this. Nah, dog. You could tell these stories, but tell people also how to get up out of there." And that's what started Ice-T. Now you got copycats, like in anything that works, it's a copycat industry. And cats gonna try to come in and copy something and maybe go to the next level, like they actors. But if you're gonna be a thespian, then study acting and being a thespian.
Yeah.
And that I'm giving you a story for 35 years ago now. 30 years ago, when that started to really like, okay, I tell the story on wax, I tell the story on vinyl, I'm telling this real street story. I say, yeah, but where do you cap it though? You telling the street story, I mean, kissing your mom is real life too. Well, are you bold enough to say that? That's what made Tupac so great. So he might have told his stories and acted. This is a dude that told everybody, I went to acting school in high school. So when cats started believing Pac's roles and Above the Rim and Juice and not really taking on to what he did in Poetic Justice, I said, you're not reading Pac the way he's delivering. Pac is a dude that's able to come up with a Hail Mary, but also with a Dear Mama. And making a song about your mother has got to be the hardest record ever, man, because that's when you're going to really get to the tender moment of a cat. Oh, talk about your mama. Talk about the time where you cried. And I always used to say, like, if you want to talk about thug life, if you want to talk about jail life and stuff like that, then why don't you deliver all the goods then? Like that moment where you was in there and you felt like you was the only one in the world. You had no commissary. Your girl is somewhere else, and it's a lonely moment. That didn't touch your heart, or you didn't get no calls, and nobody is like locking in tune with you. You feel alone. You're not going to tell that story either. So I think when hip hop began to not really speak the total word and only part of the glamorous word, just to get people lured in and be like, oh my God. You always got to say, listen, I'm not that cat. I'm not that cat. I'm telling the story of that cat. And you always got to put that as a disclaimer. But once it becomes a business, once money start talking, Bryant, God walks out the room.
And you know what? Listen what you say. And as you talk about Tupac, may his soul rest in peace and spirit be lifted. And the difference is a lot of people forget that part that you're right. That's how him and Jada, all of them, they was part of that in Baltimore going to acting school. And sometime right now but something that you say, whereas acting, you know what? That's how I felt about growing up in New York City during my period of time. It's like Broadway, light camera action. So the difference is you don't want to be that sucker. You don't want to be a geek. So here it is. You don't want to be bullied. So what happened is you start, if you don't got bullied, beat up, robbed, or taken advantage of, you start watching and learning from them. And it's always that saying, if you can't beat them, you got to join them. Because to me, I don't want to be a victim. So to me, if I don't want to be a victim, so sometime I have to victimize other people to make sure I don't get victimized. And that is so backwards, man. But once again, that terminology we used back then, stop fronting.
Right.
I'm not fronting. This is me. What is fronting? Anytime you consist of acting other than yourself, we should do that shit all the time.
Well, you couldn't get over and act in front of somebody that was older. But like I said, at the top of the 80s, what they did is they came up with the equalizer, where a young head could look at an old head and be like,
what are you looking at here?
Yeah, exactly. Because I know you bigger than me. I know you could get me, but really, seriously, if it boiled down to it,
I got this.
The beginning, and whenever you remove knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of age being the number one stat, not money. You remove that, from a community, you remove it from a family, you remove it from a structure, you remove it from a company, whatever. When you remove that and you remove like the male being involved with that, notice how I didn't say the male being the dominant figure. I'm just saying the male being involved with that, man. You got anything goes, man. You don't have nobody to give you checks. Like, yo, 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 yo. I mean, it wasn't like old heads would beat somebody young down. They carried enough of this to make you like, wow, man, that's a lookout love. The Cointelpro program and the government saw that if you could remove the love of black people for each other, man, you could do anything with them. You could make it go back to slavery in due time. You don't want them loving. As a matter of fact, you don't want them loving each other. Matter of fact, you want them dead. And ironically, we come to this point where I reached out to you, B, and said, "Yo, man, your speech on the young brother PMB today on the latest episode was so profound, as the media and the world out there grasping for answers like straws in a hat, man. When you just laid it down, it's like something got to be there to say, listen, these are the rules. And I'm not going to give you the street handbook, but I got to give it to you in like 60 seconds, dog. This is what's going on. This is a jungle sometimes. It make you wonder to keep your ass from going under. Really? I got to drop a message to you in less than 60 seconds. Don't get caught up on your phone. But if they don't have that wisdom that's also flying up the boom, break it to them and quick, you know, look, man, we looking at a top 20 hip hop rap dude list under the ages of 30, man, and the casualties are bigger than any war by the KKK, man, trying to do, you know, whatever they did in the last century. Also, we know, Brother Gibbs, is that we can't go with 20th century conversation in the 21st century either.
Yeah. But you know what? Like, even thank you, man. Even when I do peace, and like even with that situation with that young man, PNB, you know what I'm saying, Rock, it just struck a chord. And it's like right now is you just trying to listen to understand, like, guys, what the heck is going on? Like, you know, even right now, I just like, you know, going back to Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What's going on? Like right now, I'm going back to being social conscious. How can I love you when I hate myself? So when you got situation and circumstance, and you got a person whereas they can't drive what they want to drive, they can't wear what they want to wear, they can't go over here with my daughter and my girlfriend and have a meal, despite it is a rough neighborhood, despite it is you got wolves everywhere. And that's what I always try to tell people. I remember a situation whereas I'm over there, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm at Marcy Projects. I probably got like $20,000 worth of jewelry on my neck. But when I'm looking over there, I'm seeing a whole crowd. Okay, so what I did is, as I'm in my Volvo, I act like I grabbed something, and I went like, just put it over here. So to me, despite I didn't have anything, they didn't know that. So when I went across the street into the project to take care of my business, automatically they already spread the word. Oh, he got a jammy. Oh, he got an automatic. Because once again, is you got to protect yourself at all times. But to me, even as I'm looking at this young man's situation, and may his soul rest in peace. And right now, where's my deepest condolences to his family, his friends, you know what I'm saying, his fans. But it's like right now, where was security? Like, to me, why couldn't I have one person that's armed security there, just in case? Because once again, if that so-called assailant would have came in there and he seen a roadblock, like he see this guy ready, and he know.
But Brian, man, the first part of security is a good hard ass conversation.
Yeah,
that's before security is physical, it's mental.
Yeah,
because you have to alert the people who are securing your best interest and their best interest and the surrounding best interest that you're not going to contribute to the situation. the one thing older heads always said, man, they're like, I mean, you gotta be able to know your environment when you stepping in there. Learn your humility first. There's a spotlight on you anyway. I will always tell entertainers, quote unquote celebrities. We didn't even use the word celebrities. We just use like, okay, you put on a situation. When you go, nobody said you can't go to the spots, but you better figure out the language of being low. And being low is being to fit in, and like Public Enemy in the 80s, we used to throw gigs in the early 80s. Hank Shockley, Keith Shockley, Spectrum City, Long Island, Nassau, Suffolk, parts of Queens. And we knew that you dealing with what they call headache money. You know what headache money is? Headache money is like, yeah, you got something there and it's gonna be everybody gonna be there. Now it looks like it's gonna be a hot situation. So you really seriously got to mentally figure out your security, not physically, mentally, which means that this is how the S1Ws came along. Professor Griff, Roger Childers, Brother Jay, they were the security to our gigs, and they would dress like that.
Yeah,
so when you dress with like they look like Black Panthers, but they look like Nation of Islam, and also they come in and dealing with younger people, not handling, dealing with younger people with grace, dignity. Yes, sir. Call them sir. They looking at you funny because they might be used to being called like nigga or bitch, and like, no, sir. I think we would have a number one rule: you can't come in here with no gold. Well, I know you might have worked all year long and got that little gold chain, but you can't protect that gold chain on the floor. And if there's a problem on the floor, it's going to get dealt with. But let's say that. So the conversation is security. But we've gone like 30 years. And peace out to Sonny, Sonny out there, Hassan, who did the documentary that I was able to voice on not long ago. But your security is mental, Brother Gibbs. It's like, yo, man, listen, because you got to think for everybody's behalf. The young folk coming in, the ones that's coming on the outside that you don't want to like, oh, y'all can't come in. So you dealing with them with a plum, you deal with people, you don't handle people, you handle animals, you handle gadgets and equipment, you deal with people, you know what I'm saying? So our gigs were always, Teflon. They was flawless. They was like, and you could do one gig, but the whole key is that you want them back again. But you're dealing with people is what allow the checks and balances of respect to have it go on anyway. Oh, Spectrum throwing the party. Nah, nobody's gonna fuck that one up. We carried that all into when we started making records. It was like, okay, no, don't wear the gold chain, wear the African medallion. So if I see you, it could be on Jamaica Avenue, it could be on Nostrand, it could be at 125th, it could be on Nassau Road in Roosevelt. And if I see you and you got an African medallion, I'm gonna look at you like, all right, I could get he might have some in his pocket, but your stick-up mentality is neutralized. Matter of fact, it'll lead to a pound. But also in the era of the gun, you have to also go through what they call a hard act. You have to go through the best acting job. You could do the hard act, like you said, when you was in your Volvo, you did a hard act, and they all bought it. They were like, Academy Award. They was front seat because they all got it, and they already was like, boom, on their own direction. But in New York City, it's compacted, man. Your best act is neutralize somebody looking at you as something that they can get, and turn the psychology. Now we also knew that the enemy and the devil got two plans for your one. Yeah. So you come up. We dealt in the context of then and maybe a little bit after then, knowing that whatever is going to come in and say, oh man, we could do this record that could sell a lot of money. Then it becomes about money. And we understand money is the way that this runs in this country, this part of the world. It's capitalism and and get some versus none and all that. But like I said, when money talks, then God walks out of the room. But one thing we could offer is a conversation that's godly, because we gods, and we could say, boom, have somebody, when I look at you, and you look at me, just like, yeah, I want to big up and give you a pound and a hug, as opposed to like, I could get this cat because he feel like he better than me.
Yeah. But you know what, man? You say something very, very, very powerful. Because once again, even being in the street back then in the 80s, and like you say, at your parties, what y'all used to have, guess
Mm-hmm.
what? You cannot come in there with gold.
Yeah.
And to me, right now, is you're right. Like everybody come because they want to floss, they want to look good. But automatically, from a business standpoint, you already know that's going to be a problem. That's
Gonna
going
be
to
a problem.
stop the party. That's going to be gunplay and everything else. So even way back when, y'all
Yeah.
was thinking how to prevent a problem, knowing it's going to be a problem. Because once again,
Problem's gonna cut our blood flow and everything. But you
exactly.
know what? But one day they have advantages today, and we live in already, Brian. We live in a different environment than 5 years ago because that pandemic changed everything.
Mhm.
What young heads at least know that they can do, it's like, okay, you all swaddled out, you tooled out like that, like you like, wow, keep it online and don't let nobody see you like that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Keep it online, show your jewelry, but just don't let nobody see you in a reality like that. And then again, that ain't even cool because cats is they sniff in electronics now. They can sniff right through the gadgets where you at and be like, okay, okay. So it's just not wise. But I don't think what wisdom is inherent, and wisdom I think got to be taught and bestowed just like the negativity. So, but who else could give it than somebody, an older head that experiences it, and then an older head is going to realize that the best self that they ever could have been is themselves. I was me and my brother. Love my brother to death. I mean,
Hey,
come on. I got one brother. Big up to E. My brother told me about you
yo,
when he had some time.
hey, shout out to your brother, man, because once again, you told me that. And plus, right now, he came on, he let me know,
Oh
look, I
yeah,
got yeah, but see, that's what it's all about. Because once
yeah,
again, even right now, I'm not a Twitter person.
right.
I don't really be on Twitter. And just so happened I had this young guy put me back on Twitter. And then when I saw something from you, I'm like, wait a minute, Chuck D? I'm like, wait a minute, hold up, man. I got a letter from the president the
Mm-hmm.
other day. So I'm like, wait a minute. So that's why when I reach out to you and you base you right now, hold up, man. Now you asking me, am I really who I say I am? I'm
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I listen. We come from a time where you was yourself. The best self
mhm,
was yourself. I
yeah.
would, like I said, we would go to the park. My brother be running with them, but I'm his older brother, so he gonna come and definitely defer to me. But in his crowd, he gonna run his crowd in his way. And me, I ain't gonna be like, I ain't gonna be in the middle of that with y'all. We were all happy to be in our zones, in our lanes. We wasn't trying to be in somebody else's lane. We wasn't trying to show that, yo, I'm that cat over there, or I wish I was a ball player, but I ain't. So I mean, I know who I am, and I'm good with who I am. I think younger people and even these celebrities out there, you got to be able to be shown inside your skin. That's your skin and who you are within, man. That is the ultimate jewelry you ever could have, man. I mean, you can even get into the melanin conversation, which goes into a whole bunch of different things we don't have time for. But that's the ultimate jewelry. But once you feel that you need things to get the up on somebody else that look just like you, you're gonna go down a trail of a lot of different things that you got to answer to that you might not have answered to right away. And when you actually going in, and like I said, since the pandemic, cats actually seeing each other face to face and skin to skin, they don't have that same sense of 5 years ago where there was a little bit of, yeah, we packed tight, but there's a little bit of etiquette here. Now it's like cats is tight and packed tight. Like, yo, man, really? I mean, I feel I was locked in for a long time, and I feel like I get out. All right, why don't you talk to somebody who was locked down for real, and it puts you in perspective? Because I think everybody needs perspective, Brian. And once
Do
you give them the perspective of, like watching your show and dropping perspective, make somebody like, damn, man, I thought I had it bad sitting in my room for about 2 weeks. Nah, dog. This story right here will make you feel good about your story, and then you could build from yourself.
You know what, Chuck? It's like I told you before we came on the air. I can remember, having a conversation before the pandemic with LL Cool J. Shout out to LL, man.
Shout out L.
And like I said right now is, and what people don't understand, man, you, Public Enemy, LL Cool J, Kumo D, and so many other. Like even right now, when they did that self-destruction, you headed for self-destruction, and that dude, like Kumo D, said a powerful piece in there. He
One of the
said
best
right now is
all-time lines ever.
he said, I never had to run from the Ku Klux Klan. So why should I have to run from a black man? So to me, when you look at that, like, wow. And not only that, whereas when I look at it, and I have to reflect about my wrong deeds and all the stuff that I did to my community, to my people. And like I say, my turning point came when I lost my mom's like 30 years ago. I'm in a hole in jail in the feds or whatever. I don't got nobody to blame but me. But when I lost my mom's, I'm in a hole under investigation. And you talking about cry, you talking about I lost it, you talking about I lost the person that was the most important person in my life. My mother was my mother, my father, my big sister, my best friend. Anytime I got in a jam, she boy, it's gonna be all right. But now she was gone. So here it is, reality sunk in. Now it's like you say, the good and the bad. You got, the good and the bad. So now you got Satan grab me. Yeah, now you know how I feel. Pop, pop, pop. Look at all the destruction. Look at all the lives. Look at all the pain that you inflicted upon people and their family. Now payback is a monster. So to me, even with that being said, it's like I had to hold myself accountable. Even when I went to court a few weeks later, I'm on medication. I'm out my mind. But I can remember before the judge sentenced me, he asked me a question. What do I have to say to the court? And I can remember telling Judge Edward Corman during February of 92, I said, look, man, I can't blame Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols for what I did. I can't blame Howard Pappy Mason for what I did. What I did it because that's what I, Brian Glaze Gibbs, want to do. I said it took the death of my mom's to help me to understand the pain and suffering that I inflicted onto the victim and their family directly and indirectly. And that type of pain I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. And sometimes it takes pain to change, to understand. These kids now, back then when we was coming up, we was playing Grand Theft Auto and we didn't even know it's Grand Theft Auto, but we was playing it real life. Now these kids play it, practice it, master it, and think they can take it on the street. Like, yo, I'm nice at this. That's not reality, man.
Yeah. Well, it's just young energy. I think one of the biggest problems and part of the plan is they removed stories like You Could Tell out of the learning system. They said, "Oh man, we can't. Oh man, we deem that we don't look at this person who was locked down as being worthwhile to do anything in society. So if the community can't pick that person up or those people's up, whether they're inside or outside, then what does the system say? You're better off dead, right? When you have the detachment of the real stories that could really seriously reach young people at an age before they start getting into the practicing of doing shit, you're gonna have diminishing returns in honor, integrity, all those things that make us look at each other like we feel good, like we family. I don't know you, you don't know me, but we feel like we family, so we good, right? All those things start disappearing when you take like the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding and experience out of the equation. The fact that you're not teaching in a school system is a mistake for the curriculum of the school system if they give a damn about our survival in the first place. Where do these stories get told? Oh, we know one thing, that in the movies, in the records, in the industry, in the television shows, that you could present an image that's harder than hell And even if a cat gets got or whatever, you got no end to the story. It's like even if somebody does something out there, they disappeared. No, they didn't disappear. They're in the penal system. They in the prison industrial complex. I don't know what that is. You jail, bro, prison. Oh yeah. I knew, my mans and them went up. You ain't visiting them. It's like they disappear into this thing, and so therefore, where's the lesson learned? Is the lesson learned for the person that did it, or is the lesson learned for the community that could learn from the situation? It seemed like this situation the country profits and benefits off of black crime and protecting black crime. I didn't say criminals. I said crime. It fosters it, it protects it, it hides it, and it makes it attractive, man. And they lure it over and say, yeah, I'm dangling over. And I saw a movie and I wanted to go into this role. And back in the day, they used to say, well, like it could be influential. Today, the influence of gadgetry, how everybody's connected man, fantasy and reality, man, blend and haze into each other like this. And if you don't teach reality, that means the fantasy will take over. And a cat could go into like a bipolar, boom, boom, and all of a sudden he hitting switches in his head and soul. It's like, damn, this dude was this 1 second, and then he flipped into this, and next thing he starts singing like Aretha Franklin, and then the next thing he was like Pac, and then it's like, yo, all in 15 seconds. Why? Because you could look at images and you could soak them in, you could absorb it. You could see it over and over and over and over again on your time. Back in the day, people didn't have time to figure out how to act. You go to the TV, you see it once, you miss it. You go to the bathroom, you missed it, man. So you ain't had that time to watch images and try to get a role. You saw it in a movie. Back in the day, they had time for acting.
Yeah.
You had to be real because you couldn't, if you was acting, you definitely wasn't going to be good at it. You ain't had enough time to put in it. Today, a cat could sit in a room, come out with the same lingo, they could listen to like every song, every MC, see every movie, and even be amongst their friends and be able to pick up off of their characteristics, and you won't know the difference, man. It's like, damn, am I talking to a human or am I talking to a bot? Is this a human or a robot? Because this cat was able to flip into this mode. I didn't know who he was, and they didn't even know who they were themselves. So you can't have 20th century conversations in the 21st century. You got to figure out what's the 21st century conversation in less than 60 seconds that will flip a person. Oh, damn, okay, I got it. You know what I'm saying? It better be quick. It better zoom to the top quick. It better like press a button, bing, oh, I got it. Yeah, don't wear that at Roscoe's, dog. No, you're not. Yo, how about this, B? No, you're not that cat. Nope, nobody. Oh, in your head, you might think you that cat, but the consensus say you're not that cat. Don't try to be that cat, and you can't pull off enough acting to get you out of the situation you in.
But you know what, too? Even right now, like in like a lot of things, you're right. What I was saying about the fronting part, and sometimes right now is these individuals start believing their lyrics. They start believing, like, the funny part is like with dealing with people and themselves. And I guess sometimes I was on a platform last week. Shout out to my man Hashan Campbell. He got a huge platform. And right now I was on his platform. And somebody was there on a panel, and this cat, like 40-something years old. And to me, questioned me about, you made a deal, you rat, you snare. I said, yo, listen, bro. You don't understand. You don't know me or whatever. And right now, I'm just listening to this individual, and he's going off. Well, my dad killed the cop, and my uncle threw a bomb, a grenade into the precinct, and I've been in jail all my life, and I'm a real dude, and I'm this and that and whatever. And I'm like, whoa. I'm saying, like, this cat, like, literally, you 40-something years old, you bragging about your dad killing somebody. You looked up to that. You bragging about your uncle allegedly threw a grenade into a precinct? What if about a woman in there trying to find her lost daughter, or this old couple just got beat up and they in there? So your uncle is so brave, that's a coward act. He threw a grenade in there, and you talk about all the stuff you did when you was in the street and you slapping people, stabbing, shooting, and be whoa, like you know what I hate? When you got somebody so lost, I'm talking about like a professional, like idiot, like you lost, and you bragging about this thing. You think this is, oh man, I've been in jail. Yo, man, I was tough. Man, listen, like I try to explain to him, I said, yo, bro, look, man, you don't know me. I don't care nothing about you, especially talking like that. Because once again, right now, that's the problem. Everybody want to stick out their chest, like you said right now, you've been in jail. That's something to be proud about. I hate the person I once was, and I'm glad that I changed. But when you see somebody, they looking forward to go back to jail. Why? Because that's all they know. They don't have to worry about paying rent or mortgage or paying bills or paying child support or take care of family. So automatically there's somebody in jail. So that's why they looking forward to go back there, because they so institutionalized, they don't know nothing else. They're nobody when it comes down the street, because they don't know how to reapply and get jobs, get an education, start clocking, like getting up each and every morning, punching the clock. You want to sit around, be on the internet, smoke weed and talk trash. I'm this, I'm that. Like I said right now, we think we was gangster, we was fools. And like I said right now, like this like you should see, like this is the people that we got to deal with. This is the people our kids listen to. You know what you talking about? When you're poor, black, and uneducated, you're in real trouble.
Well, in all due respect, Brian, there's a lot of scar tissue out there. It's hard to breathe through the scar tissue. A person like that, you can make certain arguments for things, and you can make certain concessions that I can't say. But this is what makes a community. There's things that you could say that I can't say. There's things that I could say you might not be able to say. There's positions that we all could, and like the spokes in the wheel, man. All the spokes make the wheel go round. It's like, you know what, man? I'm not trying to hear old head Chuck telling me out. And I never ever, there's a perception about, yo, Chuck gonna calm down and drop signs and tell us what we should do. I ain't never did that in my life, bro. I have always offered that a person could look within if they could get to themselves, because the hardest person to get to is yourself.
Yeah.
And like they say, there's all kinds of God on the inside, but on the outside they lose them in the crowd. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's people I talk to, and they might have a better way. There's all kinds of. If you remove all of that out of a community, then all they got is what? Entertainment to try to figure out what's success, what's not, who made it, who didn't make it. Success is what I'm wearing on my wrist or what around my neck. I got it, you ain't. That has to be taught. And there's a lot of scar tissue out there. There's a lot of people who are tight and angry right now, and the therapy sessions that can only take place, it's got to happen on a mass level of a community showing the love, and that's not going to be an overnight thing, man. We like I said, since the 80s, since Public Enemy started out, man, here we are 35 years later. How many generations? If the generations is 5 years, B,
7 generations.
That's 7 generations. 7 generations.
Mm-hmm.
Now in 2022, really 2023, because the enemy and the devil is already 6 to 9 months ahead, right? 2023, man, you in the 3rd decade of the 21st century. Anything that you think that you could teach in the same way back in the last century probably is not applicable today. Now, somebody might boil and say, "Oh man, they're not trying to hear that. They're going to hear something." You know how you could raise the anger on somebody, no matter who it is. She could be 4 years old, and he could be 60 years old. Grab their phone and smash it against the wall. You're gonna see emotion. Yo, bro, you're gonna see emotions, which shows that the ultimate plan is to turn human beings into machines, and the program machines into human beings. They flip-flopping just like the Matrix did 20 years ago, making it a reality. Yeah, people are praising machinery, but at the same time looking at each other, man. Same way cats used to look at somebody AIDS in a corner dying, or somebody with HIV or whatever, or somebody on crack. They looked at them like human beings, like they don't mean nothing no more. They outcasts. They're going to die anyway. But at the same time, you praising gadgets, social media. You praising phones and iPads and machines. These are things, are tools. My great friend Prince, may he rest in peace, said, yo, man, you got to be on top of technology, because if you're not on top of technology to accent what you are as a human being, to add accent, not be you, it will be on top of you. What you don't understand is going to be on top of you. We're wearing white headphones that were Apple. We didn't plan this. It was, listen, we ain't got to go far back, Brian. iPhones and Androids, and cats only got one or the other, only started in 2007. We talk about 15 years of an actual study where if there's anything out there, what people got, they either got an iPhone or an Android. Mm-hmm. And what's coming through it is exposing the glitch in human beings. Now, machines figure out their glitches as long as the technology and the software go. But the glitch in human beings, we can't explain. We can't explain why you might be with somebody and somebody just don't like your ass. That's the glitch human beings got that we still don't have explanations for. However, those that at least have a little bit of understanding, each one could teach one, help somebody see the light that might be stuck in some darkness, and don't feel like you got to do 100% job on trying to transform somebody. It's like, yo, man, boom, drop some jewels and go. I mean, I remember being on a street corner one day, going to school, waiting for a school bus. And this brother came up. He was working. I mean, his hands was like charcoal working on the road. And he was at the stoplight. And I was at the stoplight. And he looked at me, right? He says, so I see you got a portfolio, because I was an art student. So I had that big flat portfolio. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking behind. Ain't nobody but me and him. And I'm like, 14. I'm like, you talking to me? Like, in my mind. He says, yeah, I'm talking to you. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm proud of you, man. Just do your thing. That man disappeared. Never saw him again in my life. Went off to his work, and bus picked me up later on. That was 45 years ago, man. I didn't know his name. He dropped jewels, and in 10 seconds, I never seen him again. I remember here we are in September 2022. And I remember this day in 1974 where that man gave me 8 seconds of I love you, man. Wow. So everybody got the tools to say something and don't need to have the doubt in themselves like, oh man, I want to say something, but I ain't nobody. That's the worst. That's the worst attitude. Everybody is somebody. Everybody is somebody. And that's what I think when we happen to look at these images, when the radio get to talking, New York radio was the worst. They'd be like, oh, more music, less talk. Yeah, but damn, we need the DJs to tell us to talk to me, somebody. That was back in the 80s. We couldn't wait till Mr. Magic or and they never used to let Red Alert and Chuck Chill Out talk. So they just playing the music. Yeah. But whenever you had somebody breaking down the music and also talking to the people and stuff like that, it always
Frankie Crockett.
Oh, well, hey, world famous Supreme Team. Yeah. Always made you feel good, like, oh man, they talking to us, boom. Mm-hmm. And then they could call in. Well, now social media is really the up-to-date future way that people used to be getting shout outs back in the day. Because all it would take a person to get a shout out on the radio, they'd be like, yo, they've been making their month. Now cats got Instagram, they got Twitter, Facebook, they on YouTube and all that. And that ain't enough to be able to say, damn, I am great. I am great.
Well, what I told you when we started out, I was in Brooklyn House fighting a murder charge. And right now it came across the radio, my man Tut, you know what I'm saying? Right now, he more or less yo, dedicated public enemy #1, and my man Glaze, he locked up or whatever. That was, that was huge. And even as you talk about the electronic, and I tell people about addiction, and you ask people what they're addicted to. Years ago, I could say I was addicted to the prison system because I was in and out. Now, here it is. You got people addicted to sex, addicted to money, addicted to drug. People addicted to social media. People addicted to this electronic. Right now, the lady put up, Miss Matthew, LJ just show us how a 12-year-old spazzed out because his mom took his phone. He trashed her home, over a cell phone. And what I'm trying to say right now, come on. You got people like you was telling me with you and your family. When y'all left Queens, went to Long Island. You know what? Guess what? Y'all sat down probably at the dinner table. You know what? TV off, everybody at the table. You got real talk, real interaction. We don't have that no more.
We gotta
All that
find
is
ways.
gone.
We gotta find ways to. I mean, look, if the gadgets are there, you know, your show is helpful. What can help your show get into society? If these things, if we have these situations like these school systems, and they don't have the right teachers, but everybody trying to do the teaching in the 20th century way for 21st century students, ain't gonna work. Ain't gonna work. And then what? Not only does the prison industrial complex in this country not work, but when it's like a bad haircut, then they like, what do? We don't know what to do. Like in Illinois, Chicago, they're gonna have to purge. So they're gonna be like letting a lot of people just out, but you're not rehabilitating people because you're letting them out into the same conditions that they left. And they did whatever. Where is the teaching situation? Where is the opportunity? So the country has been ran out of answers. What can teach some perspective through these gadgets that people are stuck to is things like what you're doing, Bryant. And there's so many others. And what I did not see, my brother, and I'm not gonna like put him on blast, but he was caught up in the system, and that was tragedy in my family. All right, tragedy in my family. We knew the pain. When I told the stories that I told as Public Enemy, I told it straight up. You know, and I did Black Steel and Hour Chaos video. Yeah, I was locked up because of dodging the military, wanting to go to war. And the video and the song was about breaking out, not breaking in. No damn prison. And we were touched. My brother, you know, over the last 20 years is a world connoisseur that goes to countries and go to like South Africa and talk to people in the streets and stuff like that. But the connections is that we never separate the love. The Public Enemy group as a fam, we all connected. Everybody got different points of view or coming, but we connected, not one way up there and one way down there. And the community is the same way. You know, you can't give everybody a fish, but you could teach a man and woman how to fish. But the ocean got to be like kind of like fertile for them, and also got to be open for them to go fishing. And this is where we're at. What you're doing, bro, and what they hid the knowledge, wisdom, and the understanding from minds that are able to come together by whatever means it was. Because you know, in lockdown, you can't be stupid. Yeah. You know, also in lockdown, there's a law, there's a rule, regulation, law, hierarchy, unwritten, right, all that. So you can't be stupid inside. You can act and say you're gonna be stupid on the outside, and that's what we were trying to that's what we try to neutralize. This outside of you assuming, you acting and thinking that boom, that it could be lawlessness based on yourself. But when you go on the inside, it ain't lawlessness. Even when there is a law and it is an unofficial law that governs over you, to say you ain't gonna just do what you want to do. And unfortunately, that story and those stories are looked upon as being prohibitive when it comes to our community, learning the 360-degree side of us. How are you going to be like, oh yeah, there's 180 degrees, but the other 180 degrees, we're going to pretend that ain't never happened. Right. How about that person that did this thing, so they disappeared, so we don't hear no story. When he was on the outside, he was loud as hell, but he disappeared, and we don't hear we don't hear that person's point of view on the inside doing a bid. We never hear that. Can we hear what he thinks now. Because more times likely that person's gonna be like, you know what? I didn't even know who I was out there. Now I'm in here. Yeah, I got time. But yo, man, don't come here, man. Don't be here. Because whatever idea that you guys got out there thinking you're gonna do whatever, when you come in here, you do for a fucking surprise.
You're right. And you know what? Even with that, like a lot of times people don't understand, man. Like, I can remember being about 14 years old, 15 years old, and being in Cypress projects. And I remember my man, may he so rest in peace, James Butler, aka Black Card. Black Card, like, summertime. He had just came out, jail. And right now, he got on his nylons, like, what I'm saying, period. And this dude looked like a Greek god, all cut up, and talking about, all the stuff he did, and, how, they slap box and they did this. And I'm talking about, he looked like a Greek god. When Black God left us, you know what these guys were saying? The guys in my neighborhood were saying they can't wait to go to jail so they can get big. I'm like, what the heck is that? But that just show you when we start talking about being brainwashed. Even now, when you talk about y'all giving the parties, and right now people coming in with the jewelry. No, 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 no. Not here. So once again, people do not understand. They feel wearing gold, platinum jewelry is a sign of success, is a sign of, that they accomplished something. But the difference is they don't even understand what we doing to ourselves. We enslaving ourselves, putting this the chain, the shackle all over again. But we doing it before we was forced to do it and we didn't like it. But now we're doing it all over again, but we loving it. We grandstanding. And it's like, how backward is that? And
New
don't get me wrong.
generations. New generations.
I was guilty of that.
New generations, Brian. The thing is like people say, well, what's the difference between now and 89? Y'all did fight the power and all that, and that's the biggest difference that is 30 years later. You have people who once wasn't here. I mean, who wasn't there. They've been born since. You have people who are no longer here. That was back in the middle of the mix then. Somewhere in between, the transition and the handoffs have to happen. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back. Myself and Flavor we are in a jail cell. And that cell was to be symbolic to say, this is the Black consciousness inside the United States of America. We're going to break out of this. Black Steel and Hour Chaos is on that album. We said the gun fair that was going on in the Black community is going to spread everywhere. To be normalized, we try to prevent that. Says like, yo, think here. We in 1988 was the first significant hip hop rap situation that did a concert in the prison when we did Rikers Island. And we transformed the whole everything. Rikers Island for one day. We had lectures, we performed in there. All the TV cameras, Rolling Stone came down, and we wanted to do a prison tour in the United States. And we wanted to do, why not? Like Johnny Cash, right? We want to go in like Johnny Cash. That's how we say, Johnny Cash did it in prison. Even B.B. King, James Brown, we wanted to do the same thing. This is rap. And we're gonna just, I spoke, Griff spoke, Roger Chiller spoke, James, you know what I'm saying? Flav spoke, and this is 1988, bro. Last time they let Public Enemy in any prison. What were we going in the prisons with? We was going in there with some knowledge, wisdom, understanding, uplifting. When y'all get out of this, we could really, that's when they they press the button. Like Public Enemy will never, ever go into any prison and do none of that performance shit ever again. So, but listen, you got to know who you are when you're in the middle of, and the enemy is on the other side. And then also you got to do a damn good guessing game on what you don't see. because you have the context of the time that you're in now to think ahead, pulling context from the past to be able to strengthen your word for the moment, man. You know,
Hey.
I mean, we're gods, but we're not God. You know what I'm saying?
Look what this young lady say, Miss Matthew. In Prodigy memoir, he shared how he had on his jewel in India, and a poor local, he called it the rapper costume. He said he took it off. And see, it's a lot of stuff go deeper than the original surface that we don't even quite understand. And sometimes you have to go out. Sometimes you have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. And people do not understand that. Sometimes you have to put yourself in awkward situation to understand and see the message. Like you say, Prodigy, he in a different country.
Yeah.
And right now, this dude told him that is a rapper costume. And just like you say, that man came in your life when you had your art, you had that architect that in 8 seconds, hands
8
dirty,
seconds, bro.
everything. But look what happened. You was able to get that powerful message. So what I'm trying to say right now, look at Prodigy. He's in a different country. And once again, somebody woke him up. Yo, bro, look, man, a polo, you got on a rapper costume. And guess what? He took it off. And a lot of stuff go deeper in the original surface, man. And like I said right now, man, it's so much that's out here that right now we can go on and on and on. But my objective right now is not just delivering a message, but delivering a powerful message, a positive message at all times. And even right now, like I be trying to tell these guys, listen, man, I'm not here. I was once the problem. Now what I seek to do, I seek to be part of the solution. How do I right my wrong many years later? So those that out there listening, and I'm trying to tell you, crime doesn't pay. There's no shortcut in life. Only thing come fast is trouble. Easy to get into, hard to get out. Because I know from 14 to 24, when I got 24 years old and got picked up by the feds being on the run, guess what? I knew it was over. And people don't understand where, as far as I knew, guess what? Even before I caught the case, I gave an order for a hit. And I was at my mother's house. Just got a house built up from the ground up. And somebody called me with some information. And I told my guys, next time we see him, he's out of here. Less than 12 hours, he was gone. And right now, when I got back, and I'm saying right now is, who am I to say who live and who die? I'm not God. And I cry about that. And when you're doing wrong, and like we think we want to be about that life. But guess what? You want something, then you get it, you realize that's not what you want because you're better than that, man. And to me, I look at it, I celebrated 25 years of freedom, July 28th, never look back. United States probation officer, the U.S. Marshal gave me 45 days before I recommit and go back. The probation officer gave me 90 days. And right now is, guess what? When I found out about it a year and a half later, they said, yo, look, you like a poster child. We surprised. I said, how long you gave me? 90 days. 90 days? Well, the marshal gave you 45. But that's what they say. That ain't what God say. That ain't what you say. When I knew enough was enough, I got tired being stupid. I got tired being ignorant. I got tired taking my head hitting against that wall for nothing. Man, listen, man. And I refuse to let my mother love, teaching, and upbringing continue to be in vain. Enough was enough. They made me say uncle.
Well, everything you're saying, like I said, I watch your podcast. Your story needs to be heard. Like I said, I have about we're in the age of the podcast, so I have about 20 podcasts waiting for me to jump on, and I don't have all the time, but like I promised you, early on, and even in the summer, I said, listen, I got you because I'm a fan of what you're saying. I mean, I'm fanatical of what you're able to put to add perspective to make somebody look inside themselves and say, all right, boom, I got it good, or I can have it good. And when you have a lot of voices out there going in that direction, it could go against the tidal wave that kind of flows us right into the sewer. Now, it's important to have that language. I've been to 116 countries. I've seen places seriously that you can put the United States of America in each one of these places and that would be the oasis in a lot of those places. But it's important for me to not come with a language that belittles a person's situation, like they ain't doing nothing, or I've been here, and and I think y'all could. So, but at the same time, I must know my role as an OG and as an elder to be able to say, if you open, and I don't have an open door policy. I don't have a door. You know what I'm saying? Boom, you could get it, and I might not be able to teach you like Bruce Lee says, but I could maybe help you explore yourself.
Yeah.
Because exploring yourself and getting to yourself, that's probably the hardest person to meet when you're running. And a lot of us are on the run from something into something that we not know. So listen, I was blessed to have my mother and father, my brother and my sister as well. It's only 3 of us, right? But my father always was saying, he says, and my father, let me tell you, he's me and my brother and sister hero, along with my mom's hero, superhero. It was nothing on TV, nothing in the movies. I mean, the buck stopped there. My pops was like, you want to talk about, the cats would be like, yo, Chuck, your pops, when cats is 100, your pops is 1,000. My pops is 1,000. He say things like, man, whenever you see, I don't care, you ever see a black man in the street and he's like trying to figure it out, he's a father, you give that man props. Well, regardless of or whatever, man, because black fathers gonna have it rough. Give that man props no matter what. It'll help. You see a sister, give her just props. Just say, how you doing, man? Move on with the day. You don't position yourself up here looking down at people, no matter what you do, man. Even the privilege that we had as a mom and pops, if you look at situations like that, it's like, oh, I had it, you didn't. That means you got to be able to take what you learn and see if you spread it. It's easiest thing for you to spread is what you have, not the things you have, but what you have here. And if you're able to give it, like I said, I got it from a man I didn't know less than 8 seconds, bro. So these are principles, and I know that I say principles. These are simple principles that you can have, and you have already when you're open. But this has to be retaught in a 21st century way with a 21st century language. And I might not know how to teach that language to the next person. All I know, Brother Gibbs, is that you got it in your way, and it helps. And you know what? Bottom line, the last thing before I go, you can't do accounting on change. It's not our jobs to do accounting on changes. Each one teach one. You drop jewels, you keep it moving. You can't like, oh man, I dropped jewels now. I dropped jewels over here. This person's flipped. I flipped that person over. It's not drop jewels, keep it moving. Because we're gods, but we ain't God. You know what I'm saying? We godly, but drop jewels, keep it moving. Because we gotta have our own manifestation where we have to learn, and maybe we go forward and figure out how to learn a better language to be able to have it, be the best teachable moment, And like I said, and people are, oh man, Chuck D is deep and all that. Yo, man, you coming with the science? Yo, bro, in 1969, it was everyday talk, man. If I was in 1969, it'd be like I ain't saying nothing much different than anybody else saying. But we in 2022. I think when I first came out, become publicly known, that was 1987, 1988. It was like almost like, oh, whoa. I mean, but in 1968, 69, it's like every cat, man, woman, even child was like on this level, or like, and that's what the government feared, bro. We cannot have this higher level of thinkers that all of a sudden going into super overdrive as thinkers and doers after assassination of what we thought was their martyr, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X 5 years or 4 years before that. See, the 60s were full of assassinations, coups, all kinds of attempts like that. You know what I'm saying? So by 1970, they thought like, all right, we done killed their leader. I mean, what the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And out of that was like brains was swelling up. Even whatever the drugs they were putting in the communities at that particular time. It was like, what? I mean, whoa. And something else had to happen. So, like I said, when you come up with something, and look, all we want to do is like have it, like I said, and this is my final point, Brother Gibbs. It's like, yo, man, all Public Enemy was the security at the door. The party was still popping, dog. You don't have a great time at the party if you know the security ain't right. Notice I didn't say the security tight. Because you leave the word tight out of it, because that brings on this, that, and whatever. But security is right. You feel confident to have a good time, man.
But look at that, man. Like, that was so deep because it was simple. Even way back when, you got it. Y'all had it. Y'all had the understanding. Listen, no drama. And how do we prevent that drama? We see the difference right now is we're not going to let you set yourself up to fail, because if you fail, what it's going to do, it's going to stop the party. We came here to have a good time. So once again, what's going to eliminate us from having a good time? Drama. Because people going to look at you and see what you got over there. Well, you don't deserve this. Yo, that's a Vic. That's free lunch. And at that free lunch, I'm going to get that. And you know what? It's going to cause chaos. So once again, y'all guys, even way back when, and that's what I'm saying, being very conscious, because I'm saying right now, I used to be in, listen, y'all like, yo, yeah, boy, but it was real and it was true. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I try to tell people it's no defense for the element of surprise. So
I always know where you at, Brian. You ever heard the joke about the dude that went in the lion's den with a stake in his hand and got his leg ate off?
Nah, he got his leg ate off.
When the lion's den with the stake in his hand, got his leg ate off. So I'm like, you gotta know where you're going, man. So,
yeah. So I guess you
can't be wearing these things out in the middle of the environment, showing what you got and all that. And so I answered to that, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I answered that for your speech on the brother PMB, because this has reached a epidemic proportion of stupidity. That the business at hand still gonna collect its numbers. They're gonna make drama news about it. They're gonna perpetuate it, and every young person think that a rapper's supposed to die now before the age of 25. That's why I said, man, I had to hit my brother Bryant Gibbs and Glaze and say, yo, man, what you said today is what the industry need to have a visit by brothers like you. Say, listen, this can't happen, man. You're gonna have to figure out, man. You make these guys sign a contract. The managers, or you assume the management or whatever, or take it. Everybody signs something to a lawyer. You mean that you can't be able to say something to them, but you get them to sign in order for you to make money off of them?
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, what do we care? But you always, like, I sit back and think about it and try to explain to people what sells. Right now is when you see love and hip hop, when you see,
which ain't no love and no hip hop.
Yeah. And
there ain't no love, there ain't no hip hop.
Yeah.
The hell.
So, but you see drama. So they got a name. They use the hip hop name, but you got a bunch of drama. So what sell is the drama. Like, even the same thing with Housewife, these Housewife show. What sell is drama. Even when you see some of these platforms yelling, screaming, going after each other, what are y'all doing? What I'm saying is this, like I try to explain to people right now how I am. Like, when I used to go to work. I used to have to be at work 4:00 in the morning. And right now I used to rally up my guys. How many of y'all guys want to be here? Everybody all mad because early in the morning, nobody raised their hand. I said, look, let me let you in a secret. I say, I never want to be here. I said, but let me let you in a secret. I'd rather be here than be in a penitentiary. I'd rather be here than be in the graveyard at an early age of a violent death. I'd rather be here than being homeless, here than being hungry. We all got choices. And what I respect about y'all over me, I went away when I was 17. Y'all guys here working, got a job, doing it right. I look up to you. I respect you. I admire you because you was way smarter than I was. That's the reality of it.
You made them feel like kings when you told them that.
Come on. That's what it's all about. How? My mother taught me it's best to give than receive. And that's one of my things I'm trying to push with my nonprofit organization. It's best to give than receive. And whatever I can do to coach, counsel, and train and help people to get where they need to be at in life. Like people don't understand. Like to me, I got a speech problem. But guess what? I would always have a speech problem since I was a kid, but that didn't stop me. I was not going to let that handicap me. I'm not going to handicap myself. So once again, long as you can understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, I ain't no English professor. I'm just little old Bryant old Glaze Gibbs trying to get a message across. Nothing more, nothing less. Long as you can understand the words that come out of my mouth and it take heed, that's what matters to me more so than anything, man. You know,
you make people feel like kings and queens, and that's the best that we can do. Like you said, to give, it's the best feeling, man. When you able to give something and it works.
Yeah. Hey, Chuck, man, like I said right now, it's an honor. I truly, truly appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? Bless my platform or whatever. Like I say, listen, anytime, like I say, you want to come back or anything I can help you with, you let me know. And guess what? I'm not Michael Jackson and Jackson 5, but I'll be there. I'll be there. Just
appreciate
call my
you, man.
name. I'll be there. You know,
appreciate you. I'll be catching you on the other side, and like, don't be a stranger. I really appreciate you hitting up and us making this date, man. So more power to you. Salute, and continue to make people feel great. And I thank you.
And happy belated birthday, man. August 1st, man. My son birthday is August 1st. He just turned 34.
All right. Professor Griff is on the same day, and also Chris Payne, young rapper that's on my label on August 1st as well. So
August Leos, man. August 1st.
Yeah. You know, also myself, this little small note. Myself, KRS-One, Curtis Blow, we're also co-founding. Now it's got hundreds of people in it. The first hip hop union called the Hip Hop Alliance. So KRS-One is the chairman. We're all Leos. We said this ain't a Leo thing. Wow. We need to same with Mo D. You know, but we knew that in this industry been around 50 years. It's like, come on, man. It's just the grown up thing to do is to unionize and make sure it ain't about somebody who's older that needs medical help, but people that come in and want to understand what to do, how to present what they have. Not just the person that you see on camera, but behind the camera, somebody that's be able to come in and also unionize is a good thing. So that's one of the major things I'm involved with, as well as all the other things. But I really thank you for the opportunity. People could catch me on Twitter at Mr. Chuck D. I'm on Instagram. My daughter runs that. I mean, I got young people running everything, but that's the one I happen to be on. That's how we locked up, and I was able to catch you on your YouTube channel and also on Twitter. So yes, sir.
You say Twitter at
Mr. Chuck D, MRCHUCKD. I don't man, and they find out all those other places I'm part of. I'm part of the '60s generation, man. So I show no shame in telling people that I move slow everywhere else.
Hey, look, see everybody. Is that the correct right there?
Yes, sir. If you put the R close to the C and the D close to the Z, but that's it though. Thank you.
Look, I'm gonna do this. Look, I'm gonna do. Hey, see, look, I don't like. To me, I don't even use saying Twitter or whatever. And then that's why I said right now, when I went on there and I saw that message, I'm like, wait a minute, hold up, man. I know it was like a delayed response, but guess what, man? I said, man. And that's what I did, man. I said, let me go ahead and reach. And it's funny because I do another podcast with my host. She's a celebrity doctor, Dr. Lisa. And even with that being said, because I was telling her, I said, yo, I might get Chuck on the platform or whatever. You know what I'm saying? He might bless the platform. So she said, how you going to do it? I said, look, whenever. She said, when you going to get him? I said, I don't know. I said, whenever is he available? I said, so I kept telling her about it. But so even right now, even today, when you sent me the message, I sent a message because I said, yo, I don't know. I was going to ask him whether you want to come on with us, me and her or whatever. But I said, look, man, I said, I'm at his mercy. Whatever he decided to bless my platform, then guess what? That's what I'm going with. And even right now, like you say, I would have been in bed by now. But when you
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
yo, what about today, this and that, I say, most definitely, we're going to do this or whatever, man. So that's why
yeah.
I say right now, man, I appreciate you being a man of your word. And like I told you right now, I love that, man. And thank you for, like you said right now, where it's like the word of encouragement, meaning I do something right. Because like I say, when I heard that same thing from LL, I'm like, whoa, he's, yo, man, I be listening to it, man. Be like, man. And that's it. And like I try to tell people, man, in order to be honest with anybody else, you got to be honest with yourself, man. And like I told you right now, I wear my emotion on my sleeve. So what I tell people, I tell them about the good thing, the bad thing, the ugly thing, and I let them know I was ashamed of that person who I once was, but I love the person I am today, man. And like I said right now, anybody that's out there want to get in contact with Chuck, there he go, Twitter
Yeah.
at Mr. Chuck D. Like I said right now, bro, like you have definitely inspired me. Your song, like certain little things I be working out. I got a letter from yo, man. Look, that used to pump me up, do my little pull-ups, my dips or whatever, you know. So I appreciate that, man. You always kept it positive. And like I told you right now, you never heard nothing negative about you. You know what I'm saying? And I like that. That was powerful energy, man. You know. So thank you, my brother. And like I say, keep in touch. And whatever I can do to help, you let me know, my brother.
Same with me too. All right, bro.
Right, bro. One
All
love,
right.
man. Hey,
One.
shout out to your brother, man. What's your brother name?
My brother's name E for E Global. So like big up to E, you
You say
know,
hold
and
up. E,
yeah,
hold.
yeah.
E is just like global as it sound.
Man, I don't even know he on Instagram a lot. He, you know, he an Android user. I mean, I'm an iPhone. I'll be like every time we have family FaceTime, man, he on another phone. But big up, yo, E short for Eric, and if he's checking this out, man, you know, he always like, yo, man, yeah, say what's up to Glaze, man. You know, he's good people, man. I like his podcast. And our brother got one coming up soon on the rap station app called, you know, it's Talking Shit. So but it ain't got no curse word spelling it. It's TKNSHT, and we take out the vowels. So
Yeah.
and he's
And
gonna give some of his stories, and you know, I love him to death. He's my guy.
all right. Hey, like I told you right now, like, you know, to me, I appreciate him. You know what I'm saying? Because once again, he told you about me or whatever, and he came on my platform. I said, yo, man, I know he told me because you said it straight up, man. My brother put me on to you or whatever, man.
Yeah,
Hey, but
yeah.
folks, that's what it's all about, man. Like you said right now, how do we build together, man? Hey, thank you for sharing these encouraging, powerful word. Because once again, man, it's deep, man. Go deep in the original surface. And to me, everybody, listen, man, all these guys that's out there, what we have to do is pray. No prayer, no power. Less prayer, less power. More prayer, more power. Much prayer, much power. Chuck, peace, love, and prosperity. And God bless you and your family, my brother.
Yes,
One love,
sir.
baby. All
One.
right.
Thank
My
you.
man. All right. Thank
Peace.
you, brother. All right.